Now, for Bernie, could have kind of done the same thing where he said, the Boston Marathon bomber. Well, first and foremost, let me say, nobody has any sympathy for somebody who does such a monstrous act and such a terrible thing and affects so many women and children and men in such a negative fashion and destroyed so many lives. None of us have any sympathy for a man like that. The reality of the situation is we have disenfranchised non-violent offenders, and we need to stop that. There you go. That's another way you could have answered it. I don't think he gave a good answer. And I know you guys love Bernie, and listen, I do too, and I saw basically all the commentary from all the other left-wing hosts have basically just been, Bernie's right, let's play defense. Your analysis has got to go deeper than that. We're not playing checkers anymore, we're playing chess. He's the front runner for the Democratic nomination. You have to have a clever strategy to deal with tripwire questions like this, and if you don't, you're being silly. And it's not enough to just say, bro, voting's a right, so like this isn't a hard question. It's not a hard question. When 75% of the American people disagree with you, it's not a hard question. If you're that dismissive of 75% of the American people, you're politically incredibly ignorant. I mean, that's just embarrassing almost. So that's one way he could have handled it. Another thing that he should do now that the cat's already out of the bag is you should interview people who are felons who are already voting. So go to Vermont, go to Maine, 2 states that have it. Go interview these people, show how look, there's a nonviolent drug offender, perfectly lovely person. Now you know his story. Now you have a personal connection to him, and you see he obviously should be able to vote. Also, go to states where they can't vote and go interview somebody who obviously should be able to vote, but he can't vote because he's in prison for a nonviolent offense. Reframe the issue on your terms. You have to reframe the issue on your terms. And the final point that I'll make on this, I mean, I could really go on and on and on and on about this, but it's not enough to just be like, it's a right, and a right is a right, and a right is absolute, and that's the end of the conversation, because by that logic, if a right is absolute, then why can't we get rid of the age limits? We should get rid of the age limits, right? If a right is a right, and it's absolute, then a 16-year-old is going to turn around and say to you, well, obviously I should be able to vote because fucking you want the Boston Marathon bomber to vote, but I can't vote. I never committed a crime. I'm of much more sound mind than the fucking Boston bomber guy. So if a right is a right and it's absolute, well, then that logic would also apply to the age limits, and we should get rid of the age limits for voting. Right? And furthermore, as everybody's pointed out, and they're right to point it out, plenty of your rights get taken away when you get sent to prison. So the idea that it's like, oh, it's egregious to say, like, while they're in prison, they can't get the right to vote taken away temporarily. Other rights are taken. When you're not in prison, you could wake up, you can go to the deli, you get a sandwich, you go home, you take a nice stroll in the park, and you can do that because you're a free adult and you have your rights. Can you wake up and go to the deli and get a sandwich and go to the park when you're in prison? No. Why? Because we've taken away your rights. So the idea that it's like egregious, it's not egregious. You have to have more than just like scorn on this issue because 75% of Americans disagree with him. So that requires a clever strategy, an intelligent strategy, and it requires, like, I'm sorry, man, but Bernie really does need better advisors, dude. Listen, this is a tough one, and it's hard to foresee something like this coming, but it's here. And they're going to do more of this. You bet your ass. They're going to always ask him about reparations from now until the fucking election is over. They're going to always ask him now about this. And another one that I think they'll do is the death penalty, because there's another issue where Bernie's correct on it, but, it's unpopular with the majority of the American people. So what